Firstly, I would like for everyone to picture a mistake. What sort of bad decisions come to mind? According to Oxford Languages, a mistake is an act or judgment that is misguided or wrong. On average, a person makes 773,618 decisions in their lifetime. On average, a person regrets 143,262 of these decisions. Do all of these regrettable decisions count as mistakes? The answer is usually no. Mistakes are small things that we experience and learn from daily. So why is society's perception of mistakes so different from what they truly are? How did the idea that making a mistake is as severe as failing manifest in today's society? Above all, how did these views affect our opinions of ourselves and what we're able to accomplish? Parents in our society see mistakes as failures. But why? From a young age, children are taught that making mistakes means failing. At school, they're graded on a number value when taking tests, and these numbers label their self-worth. And the slightest imperfections on these numbers take away from their success. However, many students excel in extracurriculars such as sports or arts, which are not entirely reflected in report cards. In fact, what many of these students don't realize is that their strengths could be aspects outside of academic schoolwork. Howard Gardner, an American developmental psychologist, proposed the concept of multiple intelligences. He claimed that intelligence is not a general ability, and that there are different types of intelligence in which different people excel in. So, for example, you might not be the best at interpersonal intelligence, but you could be skilled in another area, such as verbal linguistics. This example carries on into many different situations because everyone has strengths and weaknesses in different areas. Thus, students receiving one bad report card shouldn't change others' view of them or their view of themselves. In this day and age, the idea that mistakes add up to equal failures is embedded into the minds of everyone. These ideas continue to spread through generations to keep the youth in order, but at what cost? Many students grow up thinking that they'll never be successful if they don't follow the exact path that society has set out for them. A study done by The Guardian in 2014 revealed a student who spent the first few weeks of university in her dorm room crying her eyes out. She was homesick and wasn't sure if she wanted to be there at all. The girl went to college and majored in something her parents approved of, but she wasn't happy with it. She questioned her decisions, and moreover, she questioned if she even had any control over her decisions to begin with, or if her parents had chosen that path for her. Sadly, the situation can be seen in many people who are pressured into things they don't enjoy. Those who go through parental pressure at a young age question themselves after every mistake. Because they were repressed from following their dreams as children, as adults, they question their career choices. They question their lifestyle choices. They question their creative choices, and they question their ability to function correctly in our society. This means that many people will end up spending their whole lives miserable because they try to fit into the mold of what society views as a successful person instead of pursuing their own goals and interests. But how can we find happiness in the dreams of other people? How can we be satisfied with our lives if we are constantly being faced by judgment from others? This idea is further implemented into school systems, where students learn to be competitive and are rewarded for good grades. This brings the question to Howard Gardner's theory. Why is everyone assessed on the same aspects if all students have different strengths? Where did the mold of what society views as a successful person stem from? These questions can be answered by the concept of primary socialization, presented by George Herbert Mead. He argued that children learn language, behavior, values, and societal norms from caregivers at a young age. So if these students and children are constantly being brought up thinking that making mistakes, and in other words, being anything less than perfect, takes away from their self-worth, then these ideas will be passed down through generations. And the toxic way that society views mistakes will never change. If people are constantly being taught to pursue perfection by taking the steps of successful people who came before them instead of creating a new path for themselves, how can they pursue their own dreams if they aren't allowed to make mistakes and experiment? How can they express their own views when they are constantly being trapped in an environment and taught to follow other people's steps? How can we ever be innovative and creative when we aren't allowed to make any errors or paint outside the lines? Society needs to realize that mistakes are necessary for growth and that being perfect all the time is unrealistic. Making mistakes means that you have tried something, and you can learn from your mistakes, not that you have failed. Our self-worth shouldn't be dependent on how perfect our test scores are, or how many extracurricular activities we've taken, or how successful our jobs are. How many of you have been taught what is successful and what is not? How many of you have taught that your mistakes and imperfections make you less of a person? Instead of pressuring children from a young age to never make mistakes, teach them that mistakes means you have tried. Instead of looking at a test score to judge someone, look at the journey they are on and the improvements they've made along the way. Children should know that although mistakes are not ideal, they show that we have tried and learned something new from the mistakes. By doing this, we can raise a new generation that is able to accept mistakes and see them as things to overcome and grow from, instead of taking away from your self-worth. Dear parents, teachers, and fellow students, I share this information with you today in hopes that you will stop judging people, including yourself, based on how many mistakes were made on a test paper or how many errors you made when trying to be creative. Small mistakes are completely fine and expected in our daily lives, and we should not let them mean anything else. Small errors in our words or actions shouldn't deter us from our goals. Instead, you should realize how strong and capable you are for overcoming them. From a young age, many of us were taught to view our success as a full bottle. Every mistake you made would take away from your storage and place you behind your peers. From now on, I hope that everyone here can picture your success as a fountain. Yes, water will inevitably splash out from time to time when trying something new, when experimenting, when painting outside the lines. But at the same time, your success and your self-worth will also continuously replenish itself as you overcome or learn from a mistake. Thank you.